Hey, it's Jay from Rhythm of Fear, and you're watching CMS TV.
myhappydesires.com. Visit us at myhappydesires.com and add some toys to your toy box. Let your imagination be the guide to your stress relief. myhappydesires.com has everything for the perfect play night. Alone or not, you choose. Fuel your desires without breaking the bank. myhappydesires.com.
That's brand new Queensrÿche right here on your classic metal show from their latest release, Digital Noise Alliance, that is called Lost in Sorrow. That goes out to our Canadian friends, Ernie Hines. He says, hey guys, listening in Ottawa tonight while watching both Major League Baseball playoffs and National Hockey League, of course. Any chance you could play Lost in Sorrow by Queensrÿche off the new Digital Noise Alliance? Thank you.
Wow. That's a digital guy there. He's got 2 baseball games and us on. Good for him.
Yeah, he's connected. He's connected.
No kidding.
Yeah. Well, we want to welcome a guest to the Classic Metal Show. This guy, apparently, from what Chris tells me, he is like an Uber fan of the show. And he is a rock guy, and he loves music, and he loves everything about the hard rock and metal world, and he's involved with Sleazeroxx.com. So I want to welcome our friend Ruben to the show. What's going on there, Ruben?
Not a whole lot. Hey, listen, first of all, thank you guys so much for being part of that end of the year broadcaster piece that we did. Actually, it's one of the biggest pieces I think that I've done. And, you guys did all the heavy lifting. I sent you those questions and you guys kind of banged those out. It'd be great to do some audio with everybody, but unfortunately, being that we were wrapping up the end of the year, it just wasn't possible. And thanks for being a part of that, and thanks for plugging it. And yeah, I think there was conversation when you guys were bringing up that feature, something about who owns the site. It used to be Skid, and right. I think he has some kind of a financial arrangement with Olivier, who's the new guy that's running the site. At some point, I think there's a lot of my stuff featured on there. I even get sick of myself, I think. But, I am a contributor. I do, like as Neeley said, like a lot of hard rock metal, and been a fan for, decades. In fact, I think I've been more of a loyal fan of the music, mainly because I learned English through listening to hard rock and metal music, believe it or not. So there you go. And it's almost the tail end of Latino Heritage Month, so I needed to crowbar my way into the show somehow. But thanks so much, and pleasure to be on here with you guys. And I am a fan, so I don't know if Uber fan means fanboy, maybe. I don't know.
It means you drive a cab and listen to us in your own car.
Oh, geez. You guys were just talking. I think Chris was saying that he doesn't put very many miles on his car. I was just working on my Jeep today. It's got like 250,000 miles on it. So there you go. So there's a nice contrast, huh?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, dude, obviously, man, you are associated with a lot of the metal news out there today, whether it's Sleazeroxx or you obviously have connections to KNAC as well.
Right.
And you contribute in many places. So maybe that's a good place to start for people that don't know you specifically, other than the only thing they probably know. A lot of our fans will be that article. Right. Why don't you kind of catch people up to who you are and where they would have seen you?
Oh, geez. No, I think just a regular fan. And in fact, it's funny because it goes back to Metal Sludge. I remember back in '98, on the message board, people go after each other and kind of, rail on one another. And I remember somebody said, I forget what record it was, but it says, "Oh, that sucks." And I'm like, well, sucks doesn't really tell me a whole lot. What do you like about it? And and they're like, well, you think you can do a better review? Why don't you write something up? So it goes back to about '98 on that Metal Sludge message board, where I just started kind of drafting some reviews and stuff like that. And eventually, some of the sites that are now defunct, but one that comes to mind is Pivotal Rage. That was another Canadian based website. They gave me a shot, and I started publishing or putting on the internet some of the reviews, and then that led into interviews and stuff like that. So pretty much, I think since about '99, I think it's been pretty consistent as far as doing reviews, interviews, and stuff like that, and concert reviews, obviously.
Perfect. Well, what is it about this show that you like so much? I mean, we've kind of morphed. I mean, we used to be pretty much a music-based show, which was, pretty much a majority of the content, and then it morphed over the decades into, what we do now, a talk show with music added in as a backdrop or as a soundtrack to the discussions we have. So what is it about this show that you like so much?
I think just the free speech, and you guys just, picking random thoughts, topics rather, and going with it. I mean, I'd much rather be on here now than following Biden, who's in Portland, Oregon, a few miles down the way, so stuff like that. It does drift into some political stuff, and I think it's all in good fun. I mean, you can't agree with everybody. And I may agree with you guys on some things, disagree on others, but I think you have to have a little bit of thick skin. And I think this is a great show where you can hear varying opinions. Like on Motley Crue, Generation Swine and shit like that.
Don't tell me you're a pro Generation Swine guy. Come on, man.
No, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? No, none of that. But, so that's what I like about the show. It's just like you guys could go from, you could have like Stevie Rochelle, let's say, for instance, and the next thing is talking about some headline stuff. And then Judge Aiken. That's my favorite. So.
Nice.
Anyway.
Nice. Well, Ruben, with Sleazeroxx, and especially since the change, I mean, we knew Skid. Right. We knew Skid forever, and I mean, we used to do the Sleazeroxx Song of the Week back in the early days of both Sleazeroxx and the CMS, and it's obviously changed a lot. I honestly think that it's changed to a much more informative, in a way, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I see it, I look at Sleazeroxx in the same way that maybe 8-10 years ago, we looked at melodicrock.com for that style of music. I look, melodic, like everything was focused there, and you didn't see it on Blabbermouth. You didn't see it on Brave Words, whatever. I know for me, Sleazeroxx is a daily hit for me because I go there to find out what the former lead bassist of Badlands is doing, or or those kinds of bands. What is it about that site or about that style of music that leads you guys all there and to be focused so much on that specific style of music?
I think they've always had that commitment to that kind of hard rock, melodic, some stuff that's leaning more towards the glam end of things, and they've kept it that way. I know oftentimes I run stuff past them, and I'm actually surprised that they've opened the door a little bit to doing stuff a little harder, like Exodus or Testament and Megadeth, and I think that kind of fits because there are some folks that are into melodic hard rock, sleazy, leaning type of music that are also into some of that old school thrash type music. But yeah, I mean, they basically keep it to that kind of stuff. I mean, I always check the site because sometimes there's stuff on there that I didn't even know existed. There, like, for example, I think that band Dangerous Curves. I mean, I would have never known had I not even hopped on that site and checked it out myself. So there's a lot of great music out there, but then there's also a lot of like not so great music. So I mean, do I like everything that's featured on there? Not necessarily, but there are some really great bands out there, and that's a great way to discover that kind of genre and subgenre of music.
Sure. Well, and the interesting thing to me anyway, because I'm in the industry a little, and you probably get this, Neeley, I know you get this as well. With that specific style of music, you're gonna get some bad bands because there's unlike every other genre that there is out there, there are more guys that are doing it out of the trunk of their car in that field. There's a lot more little tiny labels that are putting stuff out that are not distributing through the orchard and don't have the money to do it, but they still do it because it's a passion. But a lot of times they're putting out their buddy's band because they're friends. How does that work for you? do you get music sent to you? Do you get like holics and stuff or whatever, and you just this is shit or what?
Well, here's the deal. I mean, I think when word gets out, and even like some local area bands like Portland, Oregon, Vancouver, Washington based bands are like, oh, we're opening for so and so, and then they bombard your mailbox with a bunch of stuff, and it's like, I think, you get a bunch of stuff that's not so great. And it's typically those bands where let's say they're supporting a national act and the room's like, quarter of the way full. And as soon as they're off stage, those people disappear. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of that. I get a lot of that. I mean, I guess I should just speak for myself because I don't want to, incriminate anybody else. But yeah, it's tough. And I think oftentimes when you want to be nice about it, because I don't want to really throttle anybody. If they're not great, I'll just say, well, maybe you should pass it along to somebody else. I mean, and sometimes people take offense to that, but I think if they get a little bit pushy, I'll be like, well, not something I'm interested in necessarily writing about unless you want me to be honest about it,
Perfect. Well, Ruben, here's a little walk down memory lane for Chris and I. Chris and I, right. as Chris mentioned, we supported Sleazeroxx way back in the day in the mid 2000s, and here was our little Sleazeroxx song of the week thing.
Oh.
Are we gonna do it?
It's time for your weekly dose of sleaze, provided by Sleazeroxx.com.
Wow.
Let's fuck! I'll fuck anything that moves!
All right, I can tell you for a fact that is 100% a Chris Aiken production. That is not easy.
That's awesome.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Let's fuck! Fuck everything that moves.
That's funny.
That girl at the end just goes, ah!
Too good. Well, Ruben, you're obviously active in the scene, man.
Right.
I know you went out and saw Scorpions.
Yeah.
Recently, man. Tell us about that. Tell us where'd you see it, and tell us about the show.
Well, first of all, I mean, I think I think I'm kind of at the point, not at your level, but at that point where it's like, man, I'd rather get comped, to go see a show. Mm-hmm. Simply because let me just kind of preface this with, with gas being what it is. I don't know what it is at your neck of the woods, but here in where I'm at, it's like $5.69 a gallon. So you're basically, driving an old Jeep, cramming some gasoline in there. It adds up, and then you get to the Moda Center in Portland, Oregon. You pay $30 for parking. Already you're kind of like almost $100 in. You get through the door. You go grab a couple slices of pizza and a cold one. That's $32 with tip. So we're already looking at like 132 bones, right? And that's without getting a T-shirt, which I did. Thunder Mother, right? A Thunder Mother T-shirt and a Scorpions T-shirt. That's another $75 or something like that. So I mean, look at that, man. Had I paid for that $144 ticket, that would have been
$500 night.
Yeah, $500 night. And it's just me, So it's crazy. But yeah, I saw Scorpions and support act Thunder Mother last Sunday, which would have been I'm bad with dates. 9th of October, right?
Okay.
Thunder Mother, great band. I don't know how familiar you guys are with them, but I almost compare them as a female version of like Airborne. They kind of got that AC/DC vibe. I might be sounding a little sexist. This eventually is going to be a Sleazeroxx interview, but this is going to be kind of the unfiltered version. But I'd almost say they're like plus size Swedes that rock. I mean, really. I mean, they're great. They're fantastic, and they really basically focused on the new record, Black and Gold. If you've seen it, the last record, Heat Wave, and then also the self-titled record. They got about 10, 11 songs in. Hit after hit with that, man. They went over great, and I was surprised that there was as many people in the seats by the time they went on. I mean, I would have really been bummed out had they hit the stage and played to an empty arena. I mean, I've seen that happen in Portland, Oregon, especially when it was the Priest, Saxon, and Black Star Riders. Black Star Riders, by the time they hit the stage, there might have been, a few hundred people in there. It was a real bummer. So Thunder Mother put on a great show. I'd love to see them headlining. I think after this run, they'll probably be back doing some club dates, which I think would be great. I'd love to see an hour and a half of that. As you know, Whitesnake dropped off, and they're kind of a given. I mean, I don't know why Scorpions didn't have a backup plan, because Coverdale isn't very reliable anymore. Ever since he blew his voice out in Denver supporting Priest, he's never been the same. And I don't think he'll be back. I mean, it's crazy, and I know a lot of people said that's the deal breaker. I say you're crazy, because Scorpions still put on a great show. Thunder Mother, they only got, I think, an additional 2 songs based on me having a conversation with their guitarist. He says, yeah, we only got an additional 2 songs. I was like, wow, that's crazy, because I think they could have done it at least 13, 14 tunes, and I think they would have still went over well. But, that's how it is. Scorpions, sound great, look great, I guess. I mean, I think that look is getting a little old, 75-year-old dudes in skinny jeans and sneakers. I mean, I don't know, man. And the hats, I mean, everybody's got a hat except Mickey D and the bass player. But still, they sound great. They probably did one too many tunes off the new record. They did Gas in the Tank. Seventh Son is great, you guys. Great live. Okay. They did Rock Believer, spot on. I think the tune Peacemaker, man, what a snore fest that one is. I would have pulled that out. Not great at all. But, you got all the cool stuff. You got Make It Real in there. You got the Zoo. Oh, and then the Zoo back-to-back with Coast to Coast. Okay. I was just waiting for Michael Schenker to come out with his Flying V and pummel his brother upside the head. Because that's a Schenker song. Come on. But it's still great. They pulled it off. Sounds fantastic. Bad Boys Running Wild. Send Me an Angel. Oh, my God. But a real momentum buster was when they went woke on Wind of Change. They get this Ukraine spin to it. They change the lyrics. Oh, fucking awful. I think with that, you either pull it out or keep it as is, because,
Right.
I want to hear it how I know it, not some sanitized version, and I would have rather heard Still Loving You or Loving You Sunday Morning rather than this Ukrainian version of Wind of Change, which is not at all how that song was intended the message behind it and what it was all about. So
Right.
that's my biggest gripe, I think, was the fact that I was just sitting there going, wow, I'm not really into this, and had I known they were going to do that, I probably would have left. I mean, it was
Was it the encore?
no, it was like, what was it? It looks like it was the 10th tune in the set. So
Okay.
maybe I was that word you guys like using, offended, maybe I was offended. I don't know, but maybe they didn't want to offend anybody either in the process. But either way, either keep it as is or just take it out. You can always insert another hit,
Yeah.
From there, we got Tease Me, Please Me, another one of those tunes that's basically, about nothing, but it's fucking great. And they still sound great. Blackout, Big City Nights. I think the one thing that I've noticed on this particular tour is that they have a lot of solos. And so, there's Matthias does a solo, and then Rudolph does a solo, and then you got the bass player and Mickey D doing the solo, and then that leads into the Mickey D solo, which, again, with Mickey, the drum solos are kind of passé. I mean, they suck. I mean, especially when you got some asshole in a roller coaster, he's getting stuck or he's showing you his ass or his cock. Come on. I mean, who wants to see that? I mean, but Mickey D fucking kicks ass, and he's a heck of a lot better than James Kotek, who I've seen do his, solos, and he just hams it up. Mickey D, slugs away, kicks ass, and not cheesy at all. It's real classic kind of drum solo, and I didn't really have any issue with that. I mean, drum solos, again, not my thing, but that one went over pretty well. And I think all those solos are basically just to kind of give Klaus a little bit of a breather. Dude still sounds great, and the only thing that I think was on tracks was the whistle on that Ukrainian Wind of Change, that he did.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, these guys are great. They still sound awesome, move around great. I know I was reading a lot of stuff and hearing a lot of stuff on Ed Trunk's show where the guys would call in and they go, well, Klaus just stands in place. No, this guy's moving around. It may be more of a shuffle, but he's still moving around the stage. So it's not like he's just standing in place like Kurt Cobain's Carcass. But that's how they make it sound like this guy's just not doing anything. He's still moving around pretty good. And I hope I move around that well when I'm like 70, whatever he is, 2 or 3 or whatever.
Right.
But all in all, I mean, Usual Suspects, again, No One Like You, and Rock You Like a Hurricane. By that point, I was already probably halfway into the parking lot, pulling the hell out of the Moda Center, passing all the tent cities, and on my way back to Eastern Oregon where I belong. So there you go. But there you have it. There you guys got the unsanitized version of that review, which will eventually be on Sleazeroxx.com. I don't know how much how much editing there'll be on there, but I'm thinking maybe the Ukrainian stuff might be a little bit too over the top with them. So we'll see how it all winds up. But in any event, that's the Scorpions show. Well worth it. Whitesnake wasn't missed in the least.
Was it worth it as far as the cost? Was it worth $500?
Well, wait a minute. It didn't cost me $500, but for that, let me put it to you this way. That weekend, I was at a wedding Saturday night out further east in Eastern Oregon. We got back into town. I literally had enough time to just drop my shit off, get in my Jeep, and drive straight there. And I didn't fall asleep on the way there or on the way back, so I think, it was well worth it. Because if it would have been a boring show, I think it would have probably wound up, at the side of a road on a tree or a guardrail or something. But no, it was well worth it. I think it was great. Overall, again, Scorpions weren't missed. or Scorpions. Whitesnake wasn't missed at all. So I think it was a great time, great value. And, Moda Center, I think at capacity is like 19K. And it looked like, unless they discounted tickets there towards the tail end, it looked pretty close to full.
Oh, that's
which
good.
I was amazed on a Sunday night.
Sure.
Yeah, perfect. Well, do you find yourself going to a lot of shows? I mean, when Chris and I were, young, I used to live in LA from 85 to 91, and there's so many music venues to go to at that time, and this style of music was very popular during that time frame. So for me to go to 2 or 3 shows a week was not out of the question.
Right.
Now anymore, and I'm not sure because I've seen just about everybody I ever wanted to see, and I've been there and done that. I don't quite go to shows anymore. I mean, not only because of the pain in the ass of going, and all the things you were explaining there about the parking and having to, and all that. I just don't go to shows that often anymore. I mean, I get out and about sometimes, but do you go to a lot of shows?
Lately, not so much. I know, like I said earlier, I prefer to be comped. There's a few shows towards the tail end of the year that I will be going to. But I mean, there were a lot of shows that came through that I was like, it's on a Tuesday night, and I know I have to be at work at 8:30 the next day, and I mean, you go through that whole thing, and that it's not going to sell out, but then at the same time you're rolling out of work at 5:30, and you're like, man, I don't know that I'm feeling it. I don't know if it's age or what, but I'd almost consider myself somewhat semi-retired from hitting shows. I mean, there was a time even pre-pandemic where I was going to like 2-3 shows a month. And now, I go back to February of 20, when the pandemic, the shutdown was in 2020, right? Yeah. 2020. Yeah. The last show I saw was Blue Oyster Cult. What a hell of a show. And then there was just that huge dry spell until the fall, hit 1-2 shows. And then after that, everything just kind of, slowed down. When things opened up here, I think I did get kind of a little bit of momentum where I was like going to a couple shows a month. But even then, I was really selective. I think in part because, like you say, Neeley, you've probably seen everybody you're going to see, and you've seen them in better days. I think I go back to, a few years ago. Geez, it was more than a few years ago, but I know.
Ruben is frozen.
Ruben is frozen.
You just went. That's it.
And that was Ruben.
You could leave his picture up there with the rest
of
the
a comp for that show, right? And I got to see Motley opening up for the Rolling Stones, right? When do you see that? Them doing like a 45, 50-minute set. And that was really special. Got a chance to see the Rolling Stones probably at a better time. I forget what year it was. It might have been 04, 05. But, I totally passed on that stadium tour. I mean, I'm not giving those guys my money. I saw them in 2015 in Portland, Oregon at that same arena, mid-December. And they said they were going to be gone. And they should have stayed gone.
Very true, man. Well, dude, tell me a little bit about what you do with KNAC too, because I know you're involved there.
Well, that's crazy because I remember going to Southern California as a kid, and I had cousins and uncles and aunts and stuff that lived down there. And I'd always sneak, the radio and listen to KNAC on the radio. Yeah, back when it was on the radio. Right. But fast forward a few years, I don't even know how many years I've been involved with KNAC, but let's just say it's been at least 7-8 years. And it's mainly been just doing interviews and stuff like that, and that was just kind of one of those opportunities that just kind of popped up, and I was like, whoa, sure, what the hell? Who wouldn't want to do something like that, right? Sure. But it's mainly just doing content, just doing some live reviews, shows, albums, and interviews. anymore, I haven't done a whole lot with album reviews. I mean, I could sit there and knock those out day in, day out, and I kind of get bored with it because I don't want to be kind of repeating myself. But interviews are great. I think they're the thing to do, and I think in part is probably because of what I do for work. Because what I do is you asking some people some real tough questions, so then that leads to being a little bit more tactful as far as how you approach something, right? You can ask something in a kind of a roundabout way to get the answer their response or their answer without being really blunt about it.
Hey, if you say so.
I mean, that's been my experience, and I think I go back to the old days of doing phone interviews where you got somebody and they give you, like, even if you do the open-ended questions and they give you one answer responses. I think one of the worst interview I've ever done is with Chris Barnes from 6 Feet Under, where I had, huge fan, and still am a huge fan. And I've met the guy, and he's a super sweet dude. But, on this particular day when they were doing press, or he was doing press for that, for 6 Feet Under, I forget what album it was, but, I prepared these really great questions. At the time, it was all phoners, it was all phone, and the publicist was on the other end, and Chris was on one end, and I had these great questions. It was just like one answer responses, and I was like, oh, shit. So that was really cringy. I tried, but what can you do? It sounded like he was doing some bong rips on the other end. And not only that, after the interview, I get this email from the publicist saying, I'm so sorry. And then, like, within 5 days, I get this box full of Metal Blade merch, promo stuff, as an apology. Hey, did I say apology? But anyways, so I get this apology, this apology from the publicist, and then this box of goodies. Yeah, I'm still a fan of the guy, but it's just kind of like some of those things really suck. When you get those really kind of uncomfortable moments when it's like, uh-oh, what am I supposed to do with this? So that one was never used because there was really nothing there to use.
Dude, I have a few of those myself. I have a rule, man. If I can't get them going in 5 minutes, I'm done. Literally. Right. And if I start talking to somebody, because I purposely have a couple of questions that I ask at the beginning that are not yes, no, that are definitely tell me about the record, tell me about the tour. Right. And if they're like, yeah, we're going out on tour. Right. Thanks so much. Right. Can't wait to see you, and good fucking bye. I'm out. I have a 7-minute rule. If they're not going by 7 minutes, I'm done. I'm just done because it's not worth hanging around. It's not worth hanging around and trying to reach for questions and doing the, oh, well, if you could go on a dream tour, the dumb questions that you make up trying to find a grip. If they don't want to promote their shit, then fuck them. That's my attitude.
Well, maybe I should have had like a 6-minute rule for Chris Barnes.
Dude, I've had the same problem with Barnes. Barnes is not a good interview, and I'm like you. I love 6 Feet Under.
Fucking great.
I'm an absolute fan of Cannibal Corpse when he was in the band. So I love him as a musician, but man, in an interview, he's tough. He's definitely if you can. There's 2 rules with Chris Barnes that I've done because I've interviewed him like 10 times now. If I have to do it late, I won't do it. If it's at 6 o'clock at night, I'm not going to bother because he's beyond stoned. He starts smoking pot the minute he wakes up, which is, noon. So if I can get him at noon, I'm okay. If I get him at 6, no, I don't even want to be bothered. And then the other thing is you've got to just play to his ego. Because he's got an absolute huge ego, and he loves to talk about how great he is if you feed that. And that's the only way you can go into Barnes is, dude, Torment, this might be the best music you've ever created. Tell me about it. Now he's ready to go. Yeah. But if you just say, dude, where does this rank in the SFU catalog? I don't know. It's in there.
Right. Yeah, I know. And like I said, I met the guy kind of not interviewing him, after a gig, and he's a super nice dude.
Yeah.
talked about Torture Killer and all that stuff. And, I mean, he's like, you're right. He likes talking about himself, kind of like what I'm doing right now. But, the one cool thing that happened about that is I did get a Chris Barnes bobblehead out of the publicist that I still have.
Nice.
Eventually, I hope to get signed, but, who knows? He might clock me upside the head with it or something, but we'll see.
He might pack the head with fucking weed and smoke it.
Oh, nice. That'll be great if I'm crossing the border, huh?
Well, Ruben, what do you have coming up that fans should keep an eye on?
It's funny because I know you guys were talking about Joe Lynn Turner and him losing the wig and stuff like that. I got a chance to talk to Joe Lynn, and I think I was talking about that We Go to 11 YouTube channel that my buddy has. He's trying to build this thing. So, I'm kind of somewhat just kind of helping him out a little bit. But I got a chance to talk to Joe Lynn Turner, and he enjoyed it so much that he asked for a follow-up. So we're going to do a follow-up. And I think I'm talking to him Friday. So that'll probably be more of a discussion about his, history with, Rainbow, solo stuff. Deep Purple, he did that record with Purple. And I think probably talking about just some of his more current stuff, kind of like I think he's done Sunstorm and then also Rated X, with Carmine Apiece. So I'll probably hit him up on a lot of that stuff, but that's probably just going to go on that channel. I think I've gotten kind of lazy and I just don't have the time to bang out these text interviews, not because I don't think they're worth reading. I mean, I'm not, tooting my own horn, but sometimes there's some good stuff that comes out of there, not by, my doing, but more what the subject, person of the interview is kind of disclosing. So, I mean, but yeah, it's getting harder to do those text interviews just because, well, I can't find the time, between working on that old Jeep and work and then, raising 3 dogs and then checking on 3 kids, it gets to be a bit much. So I hope to get some new stuff going on Sleazeroxx here, but in the next, month or so, but it's getting harder and harder. I think Chris has Chris's way is the way to go. Get those interviews out via video, audio, and you can just bang those out like widgets. That's not to say that you're not doing, the work and stuff like that, but you can really crank those out,
I'm not doing the work. Don't worry. I'm not doing very much work.
Well, I don't know, man. You're a lot more tech savvy than I am. That's for sure. So.
Sure, man. Well, dude, I guess maybe a good place to leave this, man. Where should we tell people to go to follow you and keep up with your work and your writing and all that stuff?
Well, first of all, I guess Neely's going on the Kiss cruise, so you're going to have a blast. And hopefully the Bodyguard isn't going on that. Hopefully the Bodyguard didn't go. Don's Bodyguard, you know who I'm talking about, that guy from Vancouver, Washington, that cleans chimneys. You know who I'm talking about. Hopefully he's not making it on there. But have a great time and, plant something in that guy's bag in case he is going so he doesn't make it on that ship.
No, I'm the Bodyguard on this.
Oh, I'm clapping for Don. He came to his senses.
No, I'm the go-to guy for
nice.
Don.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Then no need for that. So, okay. So going on and moving on to Chris's question, where they can follow Sleazeroxx.com, KNAC.com, MetalTitans.com. I also do a little bit with Metal Titans. These Canadians are great people, except for that guy that wears blackface up there. And then We Go to 11, the channel on YouTube. And every now and then I do other stuff for other people, but those are the main ones.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. It sounds like you're very involved, especially since you mentioned you go all the way back to the early metal sludge days as as Chris and I did. I mean, both Chris and I, before we even knew each other, we were involved with Metal Sludge.
Yeah.
Very early on, I used to do the Metal Sludge Song of the Week on this show. This was long before I even knew Chris. And before anybody knew who Metal Sludge was, and we both, Chris and I, were contributors to Metal Sludge quite a bit, as a matter of fact. So,
what was your name on it? You were what, Mick Dockin or something?
No. I was Wild Mick Corey.
Oh, I also did some stuff way back when for Metal Sludge. Mine was Clifford Newstead. I did some reviews. Some album reviews, and it was Clifford Newstead. So there's stuff out there somewhere. But yeah, I mean, Metal Sludge is awesome, man.
Yeah, no doubt. I forget what was mine. I was Yngwie something, like Yngwie Satriani or something. I forget what it was, but it was something like that.
Right. Nice.
Very good.
All right, Ruben. Well, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk to us, since you're a busy family guy, and you got to get your hands dirty and keep your old Jeep running and all that good stuff. So go check out Ruben's work at the various websites he's mentioned. And as a tradition here, Ruben, I will let you pick a song to take us out of this segment. So what?
I get to pick the suit. I have to. I know you were saying some kind words about Armored Saint, but for me, one of my favorite Saint tunes, and it goes back to listening to that song on KNAC way back when, "Raising Fear" by Armored Saint.
The song "Raising Fear."
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Armored Saint, one of my favorite, as I'm sure you're well aware. We play a lot of Saint here on the show, mostly because I like it, but because our friend Sal in the chat room, he's a big Armored Saint guy, and he binges Armored Saint, and I get these requests for Armored Saint almost every other week or so. So I don't mind playing it, and we'll be glad to play it. So go check out Ruben, and let's see here. Here it is, "Raising Fear." Got it. All right. Well, we're going to play some Saint and take us out of this segment. So here it is. It's Armored Saint from the Rising Fear release with Raising Fear exclusively here. Where, Ruben?
Well, on your Classic Metal Show. Where else?
Thanks for checking out this episode of The Classic Metal Show. Get all of our episodes uncensored at www.theclassicmetalshow.com. Join us weekly from 9 p.m. till 3 a.m. Eastern at www.cmsradio.net. Participate in the live chat room at www.chatandkill.com. Once again, thank you for checking out The Classic Metal Show with Neeley and Chris. Hail and kill, fuck you, pal, and hand job.